A few months ago, Simon Hunt was a guest on our channel and he was mentioning about how crude was getting transported from Iran to China underneath the radar, in other words, not involving the dollar. And he said that, I know a lot of ways, but I can't tell them. So he had kind of left it hanging for me. This time, we've done some research, and what we found out is profoundly shocking. America has just uncovered the tip of the iceberg on how illegally Iran has been shipping crude oil to China. My guess is that they got part payment by way of weaponry and part payment by way of digital renminbi, which is gold backed, and they also got some other thing. Maybe they got even yuan. Whatever it is, I think Iran is in deeper shit than anyone can say. I've already told you about the exchange rate problem that they have. Official exchange rate is 42,000 Iranian riyals to a US dollar, but actually, if you go to a bank, they're asking 420,000. And in the black market, it is 940,000 riyals to a dollar. All shit is about to break loose in Iran. So, don't go by what you're seeing by way of headlines, because if this incident, that is, United States cracking down on many of the illegal entities that were used to fund IRGC-QF, that is Islamic Republican Guard Corps, Quds, QUDS force. And this will open your eyes even more. So, to some extent, the dollar has been set aside by China for its transactions with Iran. It is believed that 85 to 90% of its crude is coming from Iran. So a lot of things are going to get uncovered. China is going to go jump up and down. I think they'll try to put a twist in the rare earth story that they have promised to US. Wait, this is not going away. This battle is being fought at so many different levels that you need to almost watch every monologue that I put out or a dialogue that I put out about China, because they have really made a very, very hard bid to control how the world works. Here we go. Small request to all of you as always, please like this video. Here we go. Uncle Sam shuts down Iran's offshore piggy bank. This is the IRGC QF account that I'm talking about. So let's take a look at what happens. So far, this has been in the case for the last 15, 20 years. I'm sure US was aware of it. I'm sure Biden was aware of it. Somehow he managed to look the other way, assuming he was, lucid and able to collect his thoughts properly. So what China has been doing is they have been importing Iran oil, but it is through a clandestine network to circumvent US sanctions. Iran is not supposed to sell any oil to anybody. So how did China do it? Many ways. We're going to go through some of those ways. It'll blow your mind. I told you about how you can shut off the transponder to avoid detection and then take the thing and drop it off into barges. That's just part of the story. There are many such stories that they have done, including some very clever manipulations. They created a complex network of shadow shipping and financial systems, completely designed to circumvent international regulations and rules. They created what is called as the shadow fleet and obfuscation. Obfuscation means confusion, that you can't see the real picture. So Iran uses a dark fleet of tankers that often disable their transponders to avoid being tracked and detected, making their movements opaque. That's the obfuscation part. I told you this. In 2016, the ISIS was doing the same thing through Turkey into the Mediterranean Sea, and they were selling oil. It's not even new. This is just the beginning of the story. To further obscure the oil's origin, there are often ship-to-ship transfers at sea, particularly in areas like Middle East Gulf and the Strait of Malacca or of the coast of Malaysia. How is Malaysia allowing all this? Well, they might say this is happening on international waters. We don't know. Well, fair enough. We have to find out a little bit more in a little bit more detail. Now, what they also do is they rebrand the oil to make it look as if it is coming from a different country. So Iran's name is taken out, right? This is not all. They further obscure their activities. They, by giving fake tanker route information, a practice known as spoofing. That means lying about where they are or what tanker it is. Now, like I told you, typical payments are in either renminbi or digital renminbi, but not the US dollar, completely bypassing the US dominated SWIFT system. Remember, I told you about this, right? Every country to country oil transaction gets settled in Houston, because the whole thing is supposed to take place in dollars. Of course, it's not happening in this case. And even India does that with Russia. It used to do it with Iran. But it was United States, or the country that was policing all this, was aware that India was getting crude from Iran for rupees, as well as India was getting crude from Russia for rupees. That's known. I mean, India doesn't hide about this. So how did they do this thing? They will not go after the big US bank, but they will do this thing through smaller US sanctioned banks and use that to process the payment, further shielding larger Chinese financial institutions from sanctions risk. But US has caught on to this, and I'll tell you what happened. 22 entities have been blacklisted. I'm going to come to that in just one moment, but you need to understand the sneakiness, the cleverness by which China has tried to not buy oil from a country that has been sanctioned, and also to hide the entire transaction by using yuan payments or other things. I mean, you will see this thing. I'm sticking my neck out and saying that Iran got partial armaments from China in lieu for their crude. I think this has happened also. Okay, so to create a little bit more obfuscation, what happens is the majority of this discounted Iranian crude is purchased by independent Chinese refineries known as teapots. I don't know why it's called teapots. Somebody has to dig in a little bit further, or you might find it in the references that we have listed for you. Amazingly, they're all located in one place called the Shandong province. These teapots are less exposed to international financial systems and are drawn to the lower prices of sanctioned crude to maintain their profit margins. This system complicates US sanctions enforcement, as China denies importing Iran oil. Where are we importing? We're not importing any Iran oil. Show it to us. And the covert methods obscure both the oil's origin and financial trails. So this was what was happening for many years. China was essentially getting away with murder. Now, what has happened is the United States Treasury has sanctioned 22 entities based in Hong Kong, the UAE, and Turkey that facilitated Iranian oil sales. By the way, Pakistan also is involved in this. I'll come to that in just a moment. Transactions that directly benefit IRGC-QF, which is designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the United States and others. IRGC Quds Force, sanctioned under Executive Order 13224 for materially assisting a designated FTO, these 22 entities. This marks the second wave of campaign as President Trump renews his maximum pressure strategy against Iran. It's also pressure against China too, in my opinion. So this IRGC-QF would use front companies and offshore accounts to launder proceeds from Iranian oil sales, circumventing the US and global sanctions, and funnel funds into terrorist proxies and weapons programs. See, I told you. Now, which are these entities? Let us look at a couple of them. I think these are based out of Turkey. Pulkular Energy Sanayi ve Tikare purchased oil worth hundreds of millions of dollars from the IRGC-QF, making payments through wire transfers and couriered cash while coordinating deals with Hezbollah's Concepto Screen SAL offshore and IRGC-QF officials. See how many entities are involved. Turkey, Hezbollah, Iran, and China, of course. Golden Globe Demir Çelik Petrol Sanayi. This also is a Turkish company. A front company for IRGC's oil operations used multiple tankers, including, these are the names of the tankers, the Uri, Luna Prime, Eternal Peace, and Titan, to transport illicit shipments. I mean, I feel tired, guys. 2016 is when PGurus.com put out this article. And now it's 9 years. And so this has been going on for a long time. We had said that this was happening from the ISIS times. ISIS was already on the decline by 2016. Next, Amito Trading Limited, Peakway Global Limited, facilitating Pulkular Energy's payment. So this is something that hand off or a downstream thing from Pulkular Energy. JTU Energy Limited, a front for Iran's Gardeshgari Bank, received LPG related payments. LPG is liquefied petroleum gas. Shelf Trading Limited, Seto International Limited channel funds from Turkey via sanctioned exchange houses. Ventus Trade Limited, Marmarth Limited were used by late IRGC QF official Behnam Shariari. I think he's no more. In Hong Kong, Future Resource Trading Limited, Moon Imports and Exports Company Limited sold petrochemicals and funnel proceeds to Iran. Radix Trade Limited, Masera International Limited, Queen's Ring Limited moved millions via oil sales. GAH Petrochemical, Metalex Limited, Mist Trading Company Limited, Star Oil Global Limited held/channeled millions in IRGC QF funds. By the way, this is just one rogue organization called the IRGC Quds Force. I mean, like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. More from Hong Kong. Enka Trading Limited was previously sanctioned for operating in the Russian tech sector, facilitated hundreds of millions of transactions for Finis Global Trading Limited. Next one is that same company, Finis Global Trading Limited, Lavida Corporation Limited, central nodes for fund transfers handling over $100 million each. In the UAE, so this is, like I said, right, it's not just limited to one country. In the United Arab Emirates, Bright Spot Goods Wholesalers LLC, a front controlled by IRGC QF, transferred tens of millions of dollars to Finis Global and Lavida Corporation. Now, this is the person, Behnam Shariari, a senior IRGC QF figure, since deceased, personally oversaw Hong Kong transfers. IRGC QF officials orchestrated fund flows to the National Iranian Oil Company, NIOC, and Hezbollah firms in Lebanon and Pakistan. So Pakistan also is in this. Anywhere money is there, you can be sure that Pakistan will have its finger in it. Now, what are the implications of these sanctions? All assets of listed entities are frozen in the US jurisdiction. They can only do it in US, although US can stretch it and do it on other friendly countries also. Sometimes they have done that. US persons are prohibited from conducting any transactions with them. 50% rule, any entity majority owned, that is more than 50%, by designated persons is also automatically blocked. Risk of secondary sanctions for foreign banks or firms aiding these entities. So this is one part of the story, but there are other risks for foreign financial institutions that they need to be aware of. OFAC, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, this may ban US dollar clearing access for non-compliant foreign banks, restrict correspondent banking relationships for institutions that knowingly engage with sanctioned persons, and impose civil or criminal penalties under a strict liability standard. OFAC is a very powerful organization, works behind the scenes, but if you come under the OFAC radar as a bank, you are done. OFAC clarifies that sanctions aim for behavioral changes, not punishment. So basically, they'll say you need to mend your ways, but for what you have done in the past, you have to pay a fine. Entities can petition for removal from the specially designated nationals list following proper compliance. So you have to atone for your sins. You understand? What are the strategic objectives of this action? Again, this is just the beginning. The strategic objective is to disrupt Iran's shadow economy by dismantling offshore oil revenues, laundering schemes that fund the IRGC and its proxies, disrupt the financial networks of IRGC QF to cut off funding to terrorist groups such as Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, and other Iranian-backed organizations, deter international sanctions evasion by signaling high risks to intermediaries in Hong Kong, the UAE, and Turkey, strengthen US national security policy by intensifying pressure on Iran's missile and nuclear program in alignment with NSPM2. There you have it. A lot of stuff happening. US is cracking the whip. I won't say that US is as pure as driven snow. In many cases, they themselves are the instigators. See, this is the thing. US knows how to turn the spigot on or off. That's the thing that US is good at. Unfortunately, this is something that could have been perhaps better controlled. Who knows? Sometimes it happens in plain sight. So that's all I have for you. So Iran is now being put under a lot more crimps. This is also going to affect China, and these two countries are in a whole lot of trouble. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.